4 P plus K, I think it's a little slow. I think it starts in like 20. It's like 21, yeah. So like 4P plus K is good at range, and it's good after 6P depending on the situation, but like... But like even if 6P counter hits, right? I can get out of that. That's too slow. So, and this is sort of one of the weaknesses of Jean. If you think about me, I have this move like this, where if it counter hits, I just get a launch. Jean does not really have a move like that. Not a move that, you know, not a move that is precisely 16 or 17 frames that gives him a mid-launch or something, you know? So I do 3P plus K. Yeah, so if you get the counter hit 6P, you have 3P plus K as an option. You also have like 4KP as an option. You also have 6P as an option. I can't 2P there. So this will come down to how safe you want to be, because the thing is, both of these moves are pretty bad if evaded, but I think 6P is a little safer. So I'm going to double check this here. I get 11. No, it's... All I get is a jab. All I get is a jab. 12, that's it. This is my 13 frame move. Now here's the important thing, Talon. If we're just talking about from neutral, right? If I'm out here, and I evade that, then yeah, it's going to be worse than that. But you want to remember, you are trying to hit confirm your Nitaku. So in this case of counter hit 6P, you are +7. So me evading that is like not as good from -7 as it is out in neutral, right? So this is why you want to consider, you don't have to do this, but 6P, you want to consider it as a Nitaku tool. Because if it is evaded, the worst that's going to happen, if your opponent is frame perfect, more or less, is they get a side jab punish. Which in Pai's case is going to be PP4P. Into back turn mix up, or she'll just take PK for side. So that's still annoying. And in this case, even though I'm -7 here, I still get 16. Yeah, see, here's the problem with 3P plus K as a Nitaku tool. If you use 3P plus K here, like that shoulder is technically going to come out in 18 a lot of the time. I'm getting almost anything I want. So 3P plus K is pretty unsafe for an Nitaku tool. And instead, you want to think about using either 4KP or 6P, and I'm sure there's other good options. What else would you mid with Jean and Nitaku? I think 4KP and 6P are the important ones. But the important thing about 4KP is that is only as strong as your Oki is. Because if it hits, you have to be able to enforce the knockdown. If you're not enforcing the knockdown on 4KP, then it's not hyper rewarding. The other nice thing about 4KP is if the 4K is evaded, you can choose to do things. You know, like you don't have to let the whole thing rip, or you could 4 KP charge, depending. You know, depending on which way they evade, you see that? Like, because of that 2-hit, there's a chance you could, you know, tag them after their evade or something like that. So, you know, there's varying ideas you might have for your mid. But 3P plus K, and you should go for 3P plus K occasionally, definitely. But it's sort of a... It's going to be the riskiest one, if they evade it and if they properly punish it. So that's an if thing, right? Just consider, if my opponent is really strong, they might be able to make me pay for this. But 3PP is not rewarding. Like, this doesn't make me go, oh, wow, I'm really scared next time I'm -7. Like, yeah. It really doesn't. So you want to use throw occasionally, and you want to use mid occasionally. And the other thing... Let's see. This is even more risky. Yeah, this is even worse, but yeah. What about 3-3 PK? That's gonna be similar to 4KP. I'll show you my inputs, Marley, just so you know. No, it doesn't. Even if I hold the G. So 3-3 PK is a little better than 3PP. But 3-3P... Yeah, so this will come out in like 16 generally. The important thing about this one is that basically what we're doing right now, Talon, is we're considering the risk, right? So what is the risk of 6-6P? If 6-6P gets guarded, that's great. You can do all that 6-6P stuff that we were talking about earlier, right? If 6-6P hits, you get a good mix-up, right? That's great. If 6-6P is evaded, jab punish on the side. 3P plus K, launched on the side. Guard break, launched on the side, right? But of course, guard break can't be broken. So we're just considering the risk of all these options, right? So if we think about 3-3P plus K, what happens if this gets guarded? That puts that, and this is this is something that I was trying to work on as well. Something that I realized as I played is, if you have Nitaku, it's not always a good habit to use a move that, if guarded, puts yourself right back into the other Nitaku, right? So 3-3P plus K is -8. So now you're getting mixed if your opponent's paying attention. And if they're really paying attention, they're just going to evade the second hit, by the way. Yeah, it does have mix-up as well, but now Talon, see, originally we were looking at this move as a Nitaku tool, but now you're telling me, but if it gets guarded, it has mix-up. Now, both of those statements are true, but if we want to consider it as a Nitaku tool, we have to consider, well, what's our reward if it hits, what happens if it's guarded, etc., right? So, Talon, are you telling me that in a real match, you're going to do counter hit 6P, do 3-3P, see it was guarded, and transition into KP? Like, maybe you can. And if so, that's great. But, you know, this is what we're talking about. I think that Jean players should start with as their Nitaku tool either 6-6P or 4KP. That's what I think. And then you should find times where you're comfortable going for 3P plus K and guard break as well. Yeah, 3-3 PKP, also combos. So you could just do that. Oh no! But, you know, and this is sort of Jean's problem. He does not have one of these mids. One of these mids that just gives him a counter hit launch in like the 16-17 range. So this move is his closest analog. This move is his closest analog. And Jean has the option of a slightly safe... He has the option of a slightly safer, slightly less safe, like safe in a different way option for Nitaku, and that's 6-6P. Wow, I couldn't do it. Or alternatively, another way we can think about this is if you gain a Nitaku situation, start by training yourself to throw. And then notice when your opponents go, oh, he's throwing in Nitaku, I'm going to attack, and then adjust. And adjust with this, or you know, whatever it is. So what's the best Oki? Well, actually, I'll switch to first player Jean for this one. With 4KP, what you can do is you can enforce a quick rise, Talon, and I'll show you how. Because what you can do with Jean is if the opponent does not get up, you get a bunch of extra damage that they can't avoid, and it's really awesome. So if they just stay on the ground, right? And you don't need counter hit for this, just normal hit. You can dash up and 2P. And you get to add 4 KKP. So Talon, here's what I recommend. It's going to be weird, right? Like, for me, a lot of my opponents tend to quick rise. But I have not necessarily been trained to enforce the quick rise yet. So something that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do these combos, these ones that aren't real unless they don't quick rise. I'm trying to do these more often. So you want to do this. Dash up and hit 2P. So you're going to hit forward, forward, and let the dash go a little bit, so like you're actually running a little bit. Just practice doing this. And then if they quick rise Talon, then you have tons of options. Let's see. For example, you could time a guard break right when they get up. You could. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Another thing you can do... Now, this won't counter hit if you do it right. I mean, like, the simplest mix-up you can do is a throw mid mix-up, right? So they're getting up. Learn the timing to do 3P plus K. And in fact, there's an easy way to practice this. Set the reaction on counter hit. Okay? If you properly time an attack on the opponent's wake up after quick rise, it will not counter hit. Technically speaking, there's like a 3-frame window when they get up from quick rise. It's 3 frames long. Where they can hit a button, like they can buffer their next action, but they're hittable for those 3 frames. If you hit them during those 3 frames, a perfect meaty, it will not counter hit. So practice timing a mid when they get up like that. That's the timing to hit someone getting up from a quick rise, right? So you want to sort of practice doing throws and mids like that. Notice that one was counter hit, that one was too late. You could even time a 6-6P if you're perfect. So you can sort of decide how you want to set up this timing, but by turning the counter hit on and trying to do that, 6-6K, yep. Yeah, this is the other thing. You can do a meaty 6-6K like that. You could try charge K. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. So the issue here is the range. You kind of have to like dash forward a little bit further in order to get this to work. And here's one of the things that I like to do. This was just one of my style. I would do a meaty 3-3P. And sometimes I just stop and throw. Sometimes I charge the kick. Sometimes I'd 3-3P again, like to catch their hesitation. That's just my style. Something you can do is just 4K on its own. Like the point is you have a lot of choices here, and the charge kicks technically are going to give you something optimal, but you have to practice it sort of mid-screen and at the wall, because at the wall they're going to be closer. There we go. And it's going to be kind of hard to like do this perfectly, but it's possible to do this perfectly. You have all these choices, right? So you kind of want to find what's good with you. But when it comes to the wake-up mix-up, I would suggest go for some meaty mids and also try occasionally some throws and circulars. Because you won't always land all your meaty mids. Even if you practice a lot, you're going to miss a few. A really common intermediate level wake-up option is to try like an evade on wake-up. Since people, like if you miss your... Like another way to test it, by the way, leave the hit on normal, but set the reaction to defensive move. Okay. Oh, come on. Let's see. No, it has to be. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is the annoying part. Yeah. So on some of your like knockdowns, if you set the dummy to defensive move, if you do a perfectly timed meaty attack, notice it won't be a counter hit. But if you don't perfectly time it, they can evade it, right? So think about using some circulars on their wake up as well, because you're going to see this a bit. This is probably going to happen to you specifically a few times. You're going to try to like use this, and they just wake up with an evade. And if you see that, your attack was too slow. You see? So with Jean, it is very, very critical. It's very critical. I would say this is probably one of the most important things you have to learn with him to start making his offense really count. And that is because 4K is one of his best mids. It's really good. It's only 1 frame slower than 6P, and it has a bit better of a reward on it. And technically, it's hit confirmable if you're really good, right? So you want to start doing this, so that you make them get up. You know, when you play against someone for the first time, if you hit 4KP, dash up and 2P. If they quick rise, just take that as information that next time you don't need to do it. But you want them to quick rise, right? Because you want these sweet mix-ups. Technically speaking, you can time a guard break perfectly as well. But because of how slow it is, it's really difficult to do. I would not really suggest meaty guard break. It's not really necessary. Just mids and throws is good, but that's down to your style. Every character that has a guard break, you always have the option of using it a lot or a little. Jean's is pretty slow, and if they evade it, you could die. But it's a good way of like causing like mental damage to your opponent, or it's pretty decent in like the stand-up game. Like if you start doing like pokes and they sort of turtle up and guard, that's a great time to let out a guard crush. Yeah, too far for OM. Can they evade your meaty? Talon? No, not if you time it right. Remember those 3 frames I mentioned? On those 3 frames, just like how it wouldn't be a counter hit, they also cannot evade a meaty attack. So again, if you time that right, they can't evade it. That wasn't timed right. That was. You see that? Notice it wasn't a counter hit. It doesn't matter what attack it is. Technically, you can meaty with any attack in the game. Just keeping in mind that even on a quick rise, they can sort of choose if they want to wake up standing or crouching. So you would probably want to meaty with a mid. But if you properly time a meaty, they can't evade it, and it won't be a counter hit. So they basically have to guard it. If they mash, they'll still be normal hit, so keep that in mind. Because their attack technically hasn't come out yet. By the way, 4kg works perfectly here. At least I mean, there's a little bit. There's technically an asterisk on this. The dummy always quick rises at the same time. So I just do 2 kg here, counter hit, and I just press 4 kg, and it just works. Perfect meaty timing, right? But the thing is, technically speaking, a quick rise has a timing window. So it's possible for this pie to quick rise like a little later. And in that case, this might be too early. So be careful with using quick rise to verify the timing of something, because technically speaking, against a human, they can slightly alter their quick rise timing. So it's just something you have to keep in mind. You were +6 with 6p even though it's not counter hit. Talon, if you take a look at the VFDC move lists, you're going to notice a handful of moves that say something like this. Just a second. That note is on Jean's 6p. So it's damage, level execution, active frames, total frames, guard, normal hit, counter hit, escape, sober points, notes. You know those words over on the side? That's the note on 6p. If the opponent is crouching, then you get +6 on a normal hit. Most 6Ps have this same note, by the way. You know how like your standing K causes the stagger on crouching hit? Most 6Ps give you Nitaku on crouching hit. So another way to think of it, Talon, is with your 6p, if you correctly read a crouch, or if you counter hit someone, then you get the Nitaku. And you also want to think about it, it's like, why is 6p ever going to normal hit, actually? Like, Talon, how often is someone standing in your face just not holding G? Like, just think realistically. If you choose to 6p and it hits, why is it likely to have hit? Well, maybe you jabbed first. If you jabbed first... If you jabbed first for the frame trap, well then of course it's going to counter hit. Or maybe they tried to duck, in which case you get the +6. Or you get more if it, you know... or if they hit a button, you get the counter hit. Like, 6p is never going to hit on its own, really? Like, a good player is either going to mash and you're going to counter hit them, or they're going to evade and your 6p will miss. Does that make sense? As you and your opponents improve in level, 6p is probably going to hit either counter hit or crouching most of the time when both of you are making your reads, right? So 6p is, in a way, going to be that +6 most of the time. And the other thing, so this is the last thing about the quick rise. Right, so the first of all, it's set to counter hit, and it's set to standing. But this 6p is hitting the opponent, and it's not a counter hit, but it's giving the +6 as if the opponent was crouching. And so, and here's the truth, Talon. When you quick rise, remember those magic 3 frames I talked about? You can't... If an attack is right there, you can't evade, and if it hits, it won't be a counter hit. Importantly, if you press PKG to quick rise and you just hold G, then you are crouching for those 3 frames. Okay? Now you could still block a mid during those 3 frames, remember. It doesn't force you to eat a mid, but anything that works against a crouching opponent will work, and any hit that gets a bonus on a crouching opponent will work. So I'll give you an example. Standing normal hit, the dummy is set to quick rise, right? You ever notice I do low throws when people quick rise? Now you know why it works. If you quick rise and hold G, you're crouching for those 3 frames. So I can go for this. It's just really hard to time.